Welcome to another edition of the Mizzou Minute. I'm Todd Palmer, beat writer for the Kansas City Star. And Saturday brought some interesting developments, to say the least. Personally, it was a very interesting juxtaposition for me tonight. I was tasked with covering the Silver Anniversary Gala for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. So I was at Bartle Hall. Hank Aaron was speaking. They were celebrating the contributions of black baseball players. The museum chronicles the history of the Negro Leagues, which, ironically enough, folded essentially once integration of the sport happened and Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby and guys like Hank Aaron were allowed to play in the major leagues. And they do a wonderful job chronicling this time of American history and the struggle that these gentlemen went through to gain acceptance, just to gain a toehold in their chosen profession, and it's as much a story about American society, of course, as it is a story about baseball. If you haven't been to the 18th and Vine Jazz District to check out this museum, I can't stress enough what a wonderful experience it is, and they do a great job. With the exhibits there and just kind of telling the story of the Negro Leagues. And then, of course, as I'm sitting there trying to chronicle this night, news breaks that Missouri's athletes of color have decided to join an ongoing protest after a string of racial incidents on campus and will not play or practice. They're essentially going on strike, although I hesitate to use that term because they're not employees, right? So if they're not employees, they can't go on strike. But call it a boycott, call it what you want. It's a powerful statement in the end. It's a very powerful statement. This is the one actionable thing that these student athletes really can do to send a message. Athletics, everybody talks about athletics being the front porch of a university. And in many cases, look, Gary Pinkel is the highest paid state employee in the entire state of Missouri. He's the highest paid person, obviously, then at the University of Missouri. These athletes are some of the most famous people at the campus. They're the most visible people on campus. And for them to feel like they need to speak out in this way, it's really incredible and unprecedented. 41 of the 58 players on Missouri's two-deep roster are black. So, if the situation isn't resolved, if President Wolfe, doesn't resign or isn't fired or there isn't some resolution there and they go through with not playing, that really puts the Missouri football team in terms of on the field in a terrible position when you look at the BYU game November 14th at Arrowhead Stadium. Obviously, this is an issue that goes well beyond football, though. There have been racial epithets, thrown at students on campus. Several high-profile incidents have gone on since mid-September. There was the incident where a black student group was practicing a homecoming skit, and a white man, drunk, stumbled onto the stage and began shouting racial epithets. There was a dorm incident in the early morning hours, October 24th, where a student scrawled a swastika in feces on the wall and floor of a dorm. So this is a climate that's been ongoing. And in some ways, yes, it started with everything that transpired in Ferguson last summer. That created some unrest. And obviously there are a lot of students and a lot of students on the football team that come from, those impoverished areas of St. Louis where that served as kind of a lightning rod for a national discussion about race last summer. It's an ongoing discussion. It needs to be an ongoing discussion. It'll be interesting to see how this is resolved. We always talk about wanting young people to care, to give a damn, and it's hard for me to find fault in these guys using this platform, to demand change. I feel bad for their teammates, and it's unclear if this is something that was discussed with the players that may or may not be directly involved in the boycott beforehand, or how they're reacting to it. Obviously it's not an ideal situation to say the least for Coach Gary Pinkel, but The university has come out, the athletic department came out and said that they support the players' rights to voice their opinion. That shouldn't be misread as them saying they support the student stance. Obviously, with Tim Wolfe being their boss, effectively, I wouldn't expect them to come out and castigate Tim Wolfe necessarily in this situation, or Arbo and Lofton for that matter, who was also part of the fear early in this discussion about race back in September, when the Missouri administration has been accused of a slow response, or in some case inadequate or no response at all to some of these incidents. It's obviously an ongoing story, and so hopefully you'll continue to follow it here at kansascity.com, and we'll try to keep you updated with what's going on with this just incredible breaking story.